Alrighty, so I'm here with Sarah, who goes by Sarah's.fba on
Yes,
Instagram. That's correct, right?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so excited to have you. I was just telling her before this, she's in a position in her journey that I strive to be in, hopefully in the relatively near future. So selfishly, I think I'm going to get a lot out of this, and in turn, anybody listening is going to get a lot out of this. So, something I like to start with, Sarah, can you just kind of walk us through how did you find FBA? Did you do like a lot of people did? They used to flip stuff on eBay or whatever. And, maybe like what was life pre-Amazon?
Okay, sure. So I came across selling on Amazon through Hustle Buddies, Nate Jackson, who I think you're familiar with.
Yep.
So I had just become a stay-at-home mom. I previously worked, I've done mortgages, and I was working as a certified tax assessor. And my kids were in the middle school age, and I just wanted to be home with them more. So I had recently just become a stay-home mom, and I wanted to still be able to provide some sort of income for our family. So I was kind of going through like the Dave Ramsey groups and just looking for ideas. And I came across Nate Jackson's post about a side income, and it instantly made sense to me because years ago I sold on eBay.
Yep.
So I would actually go to like estate sales and such and pick up things and flip them. So I knew that people shopped online, that it was possible. But Amazon was different than eBay because you were buying everything up front and sending it in and kind of, keeping your fingers crossed, really.
Right.
So that first year of my journey, I really suffered from analysis paralysis. I kind of lurked in the group and I didn't really jump in. I was selling maybe 1 to 3,000 a month until September of 2020, when I really decided that it was time to take this seriously. So
Cool.
that's how I got started.
Awesome. That's so yeah, you mentioned it, Hustle Buddies. It's I've met like 5-6 people now. That's all how they got their start. I kind of have this theory because we all started at similar times that they're great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take anything away, but I think the COVID perfect storm, it was like everyone was looking for Amazon FBA, and they were one of the few
Yes.
people putting stuff out there and ahead of their time. And it just like caught on. I think of Nikki Kirk as another one, like
Yep.
credit to them for putting it out there. And then just at the perfect time, I think everyone gravitated towards them.
Oh yeah, their timing was perfect for sure. So good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. And I kind of tend to think that what they've made off of that, which by the way, no shame or shade whatsoever, is probably far greater than what they could have possibly made selling on Amazon when I do like really quick math.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Their timing is
so
perfect.
I dug onto your Instagram a little bit. So I started, my first sale was May of 2022. And I saw that your first year you did like 100K. Your second year, your goal was 500K. You did well into 700. And then last year, your third year, you crossed 1 million. Is that all correct? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think before I forget, I think this is a really important question. What has to happen, or what transition does a seller have to go through, or what do they have to do to be 100K seller up to 1 million seller? Like what is the difference?
So for me, it was really about consistency. When I was that 100K seller, I was sending things in weekly. I had goals, but nothing like I was doing last year. I implemented spend goals and items per week that I was sending in. So I was working not necessarily a lot harder, but just with more intention.
Yep. Completely agree. Because I completely agree with you in the sense that, not that I'm at 1 million per year yet. That is my goal for this year.
Awesome.
But if you're capable of doing 100K in a year, you have what it takes, in my opinion, to probably have the skill set to get to 1 million, right? And now there's bruises and learning curve and stuff like that on certain
Sure.
things, but you have the gist of it. Because I think if I had to, this is just a hunch, I bet 95% of people never get to 100K period over any period of time,
Sure.
right?
Yep,
Um,
definitely.
and I really want to double down on what you said. Something that has been so critical and so clear to me now is the consistency game. Like I'm a new dad, and so I find that I only have
Congratulations.
thank you, I only have time in the morning to really have time uninterrupted to myself. And I've always been a morning person. But what I'm getting at is putting in even 2 uninterrupted hours every day
Mhm.
compounds so greatly. Like, let's just say I did it 5 days a week for 2 hours a day, 10 hours. I absolutely think that's so much more valuable than 2 days doing 5 hours, from my
Agree.
experience, you know?
100%.
I think that consistency thing is really, really important. You take action, you be consistent over enough period of time, good things are going to happen, you know?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So no, I mean, so there's no secret sauce. It's just putting in the reps, you would say, and just more
Nope.
consistency, right?
There is no secret sauce. I think that's the
Yes.
biggest thing for people to realize. There's no secret. You can
Yep.
do it. We are buying stuff inexpensively and we're selling it higher for convenience. That's all there is to it.
I couldn't agree more. I love that message. I think it's a patience thing. As long as, yeah, I mean, again, if you're consistent with it, you have the ability. I always say, like, LeBron James was born as a freakish athlete, right?
Yes, right.
Nobody's born as like the premier Amazon arbitrage seller. You know what I mean? Like, we all can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, all right. So also I wanted to know, because there's other things that I picked up. What is your ratio of RA to OA, and how is that kind of transition from your early days?
So my first year I did all RA just
Yeah.
to kind of prove that I could do it. Um, During COVID when things shut down, I did a little bit more OA, but I I really missed that whole COVID stretch because I was too busy fearing what could happen as far as money, not COVID, but
Right.
investing. Because when, especially when you have a family, you're taking money away from your kids to invest. So it's nerve-wracking.
Sure.
But now I'm doing about 75% RA. I'm still very strong into RA. I like OA, but I have a hard time sitting still. So I like to be out in the stores. I have a lot of manager friends now, and that helps too. So yeah, I just like to stay busy. So I sitting in front of a computer, although I would love it because you can get your hands on a lot of inventory, it's just not for me.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I think that's a great message. I think so many people, and for I get the reasoning behind wanting to be online, like, the fact that you
Sure.
can do it from anywhere at any given hour of the day, never having to leave your home. But I think your message is important, of like knowing who you are, and just because other people do it this way, there's so many ways to make a buck on Amazon, that whatever
So many
is
ways.
enjoyable for you, like that's
Mhm.
I really believe that.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think everyone needs to really think about what works for them because, there's such a OA push and
Yeah.
it's slowly going into such a wholesale opportunity. If you're not doing wholesale, you're missing out. That's not true. You
Yeah.
have to do what works for you and your family and your time.
Yeah, 100%. There's no one size fits all. I'm a huge advocate. I went the traditional RA to OA route. I moved from
Yeah.
Florida to North Carolina, and I basically went cold turkey OA. I'm
Wow.
glad I did. It works for me. I enjoy it. But also I had a variety of reasons. South Florida was very populated, great for OA. Not as much where I live now, but I say all that to say, I think there's a lot of perks of RA. For one, your return on investment is like triple what it is for OA, like, generally speaking, uh,
Yes.
literally 2 to 3 times from my personal experience.
Agree.
And there's so many things that are not going to tank in price, or only you can get your hands on because this is only available in this region or this store,
Mhm.
and things like that. So I also
Yep.
love that it's frictionless to get. It's as little friction to get started, and I think action's so important because everybody can do RA. OA, I think, is a little more intimidating. So
It
that's
is for
interesting,
sure.
though. So one of my questions is going to be, why haven't you made that shift? But you've already answered it. So I think that's great that it works for you. And so, of your OA,
Mhm.
what if there was like a pie chart? What would you say your sourcing method is, from, let's say, reverse, manual, keep a product finder, or other? How would you break that down?
Keep a product finder is great. I'm still learning that, but it is a
Yeah.
very powerful tool.
Yes.
I really like to reverse source storefront stock. You know, I like to sign up for like text sales so that they'll
Mm,
text you.
yep.
Email is great, but I actually have found that when you sign up for text, you get messages and sales that you don't actually get for email. So
Okay.
I will jump on whenever I get texts like that, especially if it's like a 1-day sale or it's very limited. I'll spend my time sourcing those because there's less opportunity for tanking because everyone isn't jumping on them for 3 to 5 days of a sale.
Sure.
So a lot of storefront stocking. I like to get ideas from other sellers because especially if they're a bigger seller, you can usually tell from how many reviews they have. They're obviously doing what works. So
Yep. No, I agree. Okay. Yeah, I came across Keep a Product Finder maybe 6 months ago, and I started dabbling with it, and that is my go-to now. Like that's my 1A for me.
I
Now
can see
I
why.
really, yeah, I mean it's interesting because you can, if you know what you're doing a little bit, and I still have a long way to go, but for anybody listening, I mean, you can basically say, I want everything in this brand or this category with a sales rank of this, that's trending down in the number of sellers or is out of stock or no sales rank, this amount of reviews. And like, you can just create so many different searches and it's going to just spit up to you like everything that fits this criteria, which you've already set to be winners. Now you
Mhm.
just got to go find them, at the
Yeah,
right price.
especially during like Q4 with especially December, we did a lot of MF, and that was great to use to see what was out of stock or what
Yep.
opportunities we could chase, during those last couple of weeks of December. So
Yeah, the more people I talk to, a few use Keep Up Product Finder, but I feel like it's gonna definitely catch on as once you get a taste of it and you practice with it, very,
yeah,
very
takes
powerful
practice.
and no extra cost. I mean, it's already built into Keepa. So
Keepa's a wonderful thing.
yeah, Keepa is great. I love Keepa. So something I did notice about a couple of your year-long snapshot sales. If I'm not mistaken, last year when you did a million, a little over 1 million, I did a little bit of simple math and it looked like 550 of that came in Q4. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
So is that that's not coincidence, right? That's like, I'm just going to triple down, or tell me about
we
that.
So last year was really interesting for me. I started the year with a lot of family issues. We had some health concerns and stuff, and I actually was contemplating quitting. I was right ready to quit. I was just going through too much, and I was hitting like 30,000 months, but I just didn't. I don't know, there was no fire there.
Yeah.
Um, and then things started to pick up a little bit, and my husband had the opportunity to come home part-time. So he was actually going to start working part-time at home instead of commuting. He worked an hour away.
Okay.
So he came home, and then we became sudden foster parents. So there was a dip in our sales there because I now had a 3-year-old, which I haven't had in so long, that I had to work around and figure that out. But I had my husband there, so he was helping prep and I was trying to focus on sourcing. And I had that $1 million goal, and I really was frustrated because I didn't think I was going to get there, right?
Mhm.
So we just really hit some sales really hard, and the consistency thing that I talked about, we really made sourcing a priority, and we were shipping out shipments almost daily. That was our goal, and we just hit it really hard and it worked. So we're trying to keep that momentum moving into 2023.
Yeah, no, it's, gosh, last year was my first year of really feeling Q4 like, okay, I get it. Like, and
Powerful.
yeah, and seeing your charts, I'm like, yeah, okay, and it's just like, I think what really opened my eyes last year, it's not just the velocity, it's not just the increased price, but also basically anything that you've sold over the course of the year will be on sale for 20 to 30% off at some point in time
Yep.
during, November, December. So even if you don't see the
Mhm.
sales in Q4, it'll trickle over into the early, next year or whatever the
Oh
case may be.
yeah,
It's just a
January
crazy
can
time of
be
year. It
better than
really
December.
is. You
Yeah,
know?
we just really hit the sales, and I started having someone shop for me. So
Okay.
if I was hitting a sale, she was hitting a sale an hour away.
Okay.
So that gave us the opportunity to double down on sourcing. So yeah, it was just a combination of all of it. Just blew up.
I think that would be a really good, well, you know what, before I forget, let me say something. You pointed out you have a family, husband started doing part-time from home, foster kid came into the picture, which,
Yeah.
and something that is incredible about Amazon is that you do it on your time, like
Very
if
much.
you have to do it on nights or weekends or throughout the day, like it's truly one of the best parts about Amazon, in my opinion. And I would say this
Agreed.
probably pertains a little more to online arbitrage or wholesale, whatever, but that flexibility is incredible if you're willing to put in the time. So anyway, I just wanted to point that before I forgot it. But
Oh
you were
yeah.
mentioning you had a shopper. I think that would be something great to talk about. Um, I think that's a bottleneck for a lot of people with retail arbitrage. I can only be in so many places at once. Can you
Sure.
tell us like how that came to be? What's your arrangement with them from paying them? Do you give them a list? Do they know how to source on their own? Like fill us in on that.
Sure. So we're still very much working it out, ironing out the kinks. What we do is share a photo album. So as I'm sourcing these sales, I'll take pictures of what I'm looking for and share them with her. Um, it's usually kind of a last minute thing for me to use a shopper. Like this last weekend, there was a really big sale at a store
Mhm.
and we hit multiple. And so she started when I started, and I would just send her pictures and she would look for the same items. And luckily, they were available at all the different stores. But she also knows how to scan. She doesn't really know how to analyze, but
Okay.
she knows how to look at a quick screenshot and decide whether or not, and depending on the cost of the item too. She'll call me if she has questions, but she hit 15 stores yesterday. So that really adds up when I'm sourcing as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Oh,
And,
and
and
I pay her hourly
okay.
now, but then I'll also like fill up her gas tank, buy her lunch, things like that.
No, very smart. Okay, that makes sense. I think that's one of those things that not necessarily from me, but a generalized question would be like, if I'm that person, why not just create my own account? And
Right. I
but
know.
there's a big learning curve and risk. And just to say, you can say that about any business. Why not? If I work at Dunkin' Donuts, I could in theory start a donut shop, but it's not that easy.
It's not. And you have to have, the money available to spend too. And a
Right.
lot of people can't jump into that. So she's learning. If she ever wanted to start her own business, I would support her 100%.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening. So
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's cool. So and then I also noticed you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have a warehouse, correct?
we just moved into one last month. Mhm.
Okay. And so I guess you answered this for the most part because you do so much RA, but I think a natural question would be like, why not use a prep center? Do you have a prep center even option for RA in your area? Or do
Not
you, or
for RA, nope.
no? Okay.
I did utilize a prep center for my OA purchases up
Okay.
until last month because it didn't make sense anymore. But um, yeah, there's one, I think it's like an hour and a half away, but
Yeah.
the amount that I bring in, it's not feasible. We'd be making trips.
Yeah. No. And so at your level, do you have somebody doing the prepping and packing? Are you still hands-on, or your husband, or like how does that stuff get done?
So now that we're in the warehouse space, I hired a full-time employee. So now I have a full-time employee, a part-time employee, and then my husband and myself.
Okay.
So we're working this out too, but how it's working now is when I bring bags in, I put them on the shelf with the receipts. My husband actually takes those items and creates batches. And then that moves off to the prep area where my full-time employee does all of the prep. So he can print out the stickers and complete the batches, do the shipping, and then goes into the loading dock where UPS comes and picks it up.
Cool.
So
Okay.
daisy
Yeah,
chaining
no,
right
that's cool.
now.
And like what square footage is a warehouse for what you're doing?
2,000 square feet.
Do you mind sharing what that costs and what area that is?
Sure. So we're, as far as in Michigan, we're in the
Okay.
Lansing area. It's 1,500 roughly a month plus your triple net. So things like insurance and maintenance and taxes, you share a portion with everyone else in the building.
Yeah.
And then utilities on top of that. So it's about 2,000 plus utilities a month.
Okay. And so prior to this, it was just out of the house?
So prior to this, I actually had a small, maybe 700 square foot little office that I rented last April. So I was almost there a year. And then previous to that, I was in my garage. So I've kind of stepped up a little
Okay.
bit each time.
Very
But
methodically, like slow and steady. That's awesome.
yes,
That's
yep.
really cool. I will say I don't miss I have a prep center now that I like. That's one thing I do not miss at all, is taking off stickers and stuff like
Oh,
that. But
no.
you know, I did it for years.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like everyone should go through that too,
Agreed.
because you have an appreciation of what's involved.
I completely agree. And even it's funny, there are little nuances like I don't want to give away exactly what it is, but there's certain products that I still prefer to get sent to me because maybe it's like it has a good chance of the packaging. It typically opens in this one location. So
Sure.
I want to bag it a certain way or use bubble wrap, even if it's not required, and little stuff like that,
Yeah.
that the fact of the matter is no one's going to treat your business the way you do. And also I will say, I like seeking out of stock items, and time is of the essence with that. And with a prep center, you're losing valuable time. So,
Yeah.
but everything's pros and cons.
Yep. We loved our prep center. They were fantastic. It just didn't make sense anymore for me
Yeah,
to
no, I
have
totally
both.
get it. And once you're paying for the warehouse and a staff member, it's like,
Yeah.
might as well.
Right.
That's and have complete control over everything. I like that.
Yeah.
Something I noticed that you do, which I think a lot of successful Amazon sellers do, and I'm curious, like, if you could break down your spending budget. Are you someone that says, I want to hit this every week, every month? Do you break it down on a daily thing, or like, tell me what your thought process is with your spend budget?
So during Q4, I was doing a daily budget.
Okay.
We've moved from that a little bit. There are just so many sales during Q4 that you can take advantage
Right.
of. We try to spend between 60 and 70,000 a month. That's my goal now. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. When there's a big sale, it's going to be more than that. But I do try to source daily, whether it is going to a store or jumping online, maybe even doing a pickup. Just something to keep that consistency going.
Yeah. Okay. And when you do a spending budget, so obviously it helps you know where you're at in your spend and also keep you on track and all that.
Yeah.
So if you spend, let's say 60,000 in a month, of those $60,000 in purchases, do you anticipate doubling that in sales, or do you know kind of what your multiplier is for like a round number?
So my goal has always been to have 100,000 a month.
Okay.
And I did the math backwards to kind of figure it out. I need to at least spend 60, but I want to shoot for more than that because you're obviously not everything's going to sell.
Of course.
And then for ROI, things can tank. So you have to have that wiggle room in order to liquidate or try not to lose anything if you can. But
Yeah. Totally
yeah,
makes
I
sense.
shoot for 50% ROI, but we're right around the 70 mark right now. So
70% ROI.
Mhm.
And is that all in or just for retail, or do you have different metrics for RAOA?
Uh, well, OA, I'm looking more of a velocity. I want to see something moving quickly because
Yeah.
there are so many eyeballs on those OA
Yes.
items. So I'll go down 30% for OA if it moves quickly, which people will tell you.
Yep.
But for RA, it's a minimum of 50, and that 70 is more of like an average
Okay.
between the
So
two.
right now you're averaging 70% ROI all in.
Mhm.
That's incredible. Like that is really incredible.
Yeah, well, we have to keep it higher because we've got all these expenses now. So
Yep.
I have
So
to.
so let me ask you something. Knowing what you know now, so because when you were telling me about the warehouse, I will say I didn't know your ROI was that good because that can cover a lot of expenses, right? Would you say that knowing what you know now, that like if someone is scaling, no brainer, warehouse, employee, whatever, or say maybe evaluate where you're at, because hypothetically, let's just make this up. If you're doing 70K a month in sales from your home, and you want to bump to 100, but in order to get to that 100, now you need to take on a warehouse and a staff member. That first 30K might be a wash, right? Or,
Mhm.
just for round numbers, you know what I
Sure.
mean? So looking back, if you were to give advice to your younger self, I guess, going back to pre-warehouse days, would you 100% say, no, it absolutely makes sense if you're going to continue to scale?
I think it really depends. For us, the warehouse was a no-brainer because we wanted to get into other things,
Okay.
non-Amazon related. But for anyone else, it's hard because if you can do all of this from home and you're comfortable with that, utilizing a prep center and maybe not scaling up to that 100, but staying where you're at, that to me makes sense and you should do that.
Yeah.
you have to look at the whole picture because, I mean, even with a warehouse, that's a 3-year lease. There's a big commitment there that you have to be ready to take. So
Totally.
it's not necessary if you want to scale to take on more things. Like you said, it could
Yeah.
definitely be a wash. So a lot to consider.
Okay, cool. I think you hit something on the head though that's crossed my mind. I think the only time I would consider, I shouldn't say not just for me, but I think something that would make a lot of sense is a if somebody saw buying the warehouse as like an investment, like I know this
Oh
area is
yeah.
going to increase, so yes, I'm paying a mortgage, but it's going to myself and it's going to appreciate potentially. Two, if
Yep.
you have another business or can sublet some of it to subsidize it, I think that's so smart that if you can create a way to, even if it was just for Amazon, great, still makes sense. But if there's other opportunity there to utilize that space, you know, um, even if someone is like an Amazon creator and they create a little,
Yeah.
filming room for themselves or podcast
Mhm.
room, whatever, stuff like that too. So
Yeah. And
that's
we
cool.
looked at buying at the time, but our goal isn't to necessarily stay in Michigan after the kids graduate. So it just didn't make sense for us to do
Totally.
something like that. But
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So something else I want to ask you is, if I go back, I think there's a couple things that happened on my journey to that really kind of like help thread the needle. Does anything pop into your mind as far as major inflection points, like maybe when I discovered this software or when I had this light bulb moment here or there? Is there anything that stuck out at you that you can look back on and say this moment was a major change, or was it just very nice and steady, just like nothing really in particular?
No, I definitely had a light bulb moment. So that first year, I was doing everything on my own. I didn't really involve myself in the community or in groups. I kind of read, and lurked in the background. But then one day in the Hustle Buddy group, someone had posted that they wanted to create like a mastermind or a group, and they were looking for this type of seller in different areas of the country. And I joined that group, and that was, gosh, December of 2020, something like that. But bringing other sellers together, and there's 5 of us now, that changed everything. Sharing bolos, um, what works, what doesn't. We went through ungating together. We've been through ups and downs this entire time, but that changed everything for me. That was a huge moment for me. And we talk daily, multiple times a day. So if I could give any advice aside from the consistency, it would be to network and form a small group of people going through like your same size, and you can grow together, because Amazon can be a very lonely business, and networking, it just opens up so many doors. So
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I can speak to that myself. I think I had a light bulb moment not that long ago, and I was like, as I started to put more and more out there and connect with some people, and like you said, people that I knew were doing OA, doing around my numbers, and I liked what they're putting out there. Like some people you just gravitate towards. It's not
sure.
like whether you're some people get put off by people trying to maybe like flex or whatever. And, other people
Yeah.
it's just like,
Sell
so there are
courses.
certain people. Yeah. So there's certain people you gravitate towards. And it's funny you say that because literally last week, there's 2 other sellers that I reached out to that I respect that I've had on here actually. And we kind of
Nice.
created just a little group where we're just starting it off, just gonna every day just share a couple leads with each other. And we're all winning here. If I get 10 new products a week from them and vice versa, we're all only gonna win. And
Yep.
to
I
me, I
love
kind
it.
of thought about that as like 10 times 4, 40 new products a week. This could be a couple grand
It's
like
huge. It's
that,
huge. Yep.
with no extra work, by the way, no extra work other than
Hmm.
putting myself out there and connecting with people. So I think
Yep.
that's great advice. And I want to share one other thing actually, is that when I first started making content, 100% the long-term play was, I don't know how, but I could probably monetize because I listen to Gary Vee enough and all these things, right? What I didn't realize was that the best monetization I'll probably ever have is the connections and the lead
Oh,
sharing
sure.
and having the people. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Even if you're not extroverted, you're into it, like just start and message people, maybe start with sharing a lead to someone, and go from
Yeah,
there.
it's true. And I'm actually very much a shy person. So that was really big for me to be able to put myself out there. And when I first started, and you may have seen this too, information wasn't available like it is now. It was very hush hush. I mean, you didn't ask how to ungate something in a group.
Yeah.
You'd get kicked out. Everything was a secret. So having that group of people to grow with was a really big deal, because especially with ungating, nobody knew really how to ungate, especially Nike, unless you were paying 200 to 300 for it.
I know.
So sharing that was just massive.
Yeah, it's wild because it wasn't long ago when I started too, May of 2020, or my first
Yeah.
sale was in 2020, May. And yeah, ungating was like, it was like not as easy as it is now. And now it's just, it's
No.
all front and center. It's funny. People used to charge a lot of money for ungating stuff.
Yeah, I paid $300 for Nike.
Yeah. Well, and that was very normal and that was worthwhile, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Barrier to
No.
entry. Now it's not so much
Speaking of
profitable.
ungating, while we're on that topic, I'd like to ask people, think about what it's like when you're brand new doing RA. Okay. Do you
Okay.
think somebody, let's say they have a limited budget. I'm not saying bare bones, right? But I'm not saying an endless supply either. Do you think somebody should get ungated from day one, or just go sell what's you're automatically allowed to sell, get naturally ungated, get your feet wet, or somewhere maybe in between that? Like where do you stand on ungating, knowing what you know now for beginners?
So I actually didn't start with very much. So this hits home. I I don't think you should worry about ungating everything all at once. You
Mhm.
need to learn how to source, learn how all of this works. And how I did it was, as I would come across something, say like a brand, if I was noticing it everywhere and it was profitable and I was really losing out, then I would take the steps to ungate that brand. But at first, I think I ungated grocery, health and beauty, and maybe toys eventually, like 6 months down the road. But as far as brand specific, unless I needed it because I was losing out, I didn't worry about it, because a lot of those things will come naturally too. As your account grows, a lot of that will organically ungate. So don't spend your money all on ungating. You need inventory. So
Yep. I completely agree. I'm glad you said that because I share that sentiment 1,000,000%. I will say, knowing what I know now, I got ungated on the same invoice for like grocery and like topical or health and beauty, stuff like that.
nice.
If you do RA, I will say I think grocery is a great category to get started because we all have
Agreed.
grocery stores and chains and weekly BOGOs. But I am so much on the bandwagon of prove to yourself you're going to do this, get
Mhm.
started, take action, and in 6 months, so much is going to naturally get ungated for you. I think what happens is people don't know what they're doing early on. They scan something that would be a winner, and it's like, oh, if only I was ungated in this, I'd be crushing it, right? Or if only I was
Yeah.
ungated in that, I'd be crushing it. If that happens time and time again, like you said, okay, go get ungated in that. But you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know what you're doing with the stuff that you're allowed to sell, you're certainly not going to know what to do with the stuff that you have to spend money to sell.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's
Slow and
my take for
steady.
anybody that's new as well. Just if you're going to stick with it, it's not going to be an issue whatsoever in a matter of months. So
Mm-mm.
just kind of, hone in on what works for you.
Yeah. You need to figure out if you even like it,
Right.
because not everybody does, and that's okay.
Completely agree. I'm a big advocate. I know every situation is different. I've said this before though, but to that point, I'm like, if you have a job that you don't despise, especially if you have responsibilities in terms of maybe family, kids, whatever, you don't have to quit the day job. Do this on nights, weekends, do it during your
Yeah.
workday if you work from home or something, or even if you
Right.
don't. And then if you like it, you prove it to yourself. Maybe you have an exit plan, but it's not one of those things that has to be all or nothing. And I think so many people just want that quick fix,
Hmm.
and it's
It's
just
not
not
a quick
necessary.
fix. No. You
So
have to be in it for the long haul and see if you like it before you change your world.
I
Because
completely agree. And it is 100% a long-term play. There is
Mhm.
no doubt about that. if for anybody new, like if you used to buy and sell stuff on eBay, for instance, or I would buy these shoes, I sell them on eBay, it's a one-to-one transaction and I'm getting paid pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Amazon, though, you have a lot of inventory tied up in any given time. So even learning, like you always hear about cash flow, it's capital intensive. So
Very much.
it's not like a paycheck. That's kind of a normal paycheck. That's the best way I can put it,
Exactly. Yep.
So, all right, something else I want to talk about. To me, talk about inflection point, actually. It hit me a couple months ago. I was like, wow, cashback is really powerful, not just because of obviously you get money back, but
Yes.
it's tax-free. I'm not an accountant, by the way.
Right.
It's tax-free. I don't really build it into my profit. Like if it doesn't make sense without it, then I'm not buying it. So it's kind of gravy on top of
Yep.
that. But also, like, there's no fluctuation. If you get 10% back cash back on a purchase that's $100, there's no price tinkers to take away your $10. So anyway, I share that to say I saw that you got a little over $3,000, I think, on your quarterly payout from Rakuten recently, or maybe a couple months ago. And that's only one of the extensions, right?
Yeah.
What is your strategy for using extensions? And for a number like that, I'm guessing you use it in store too for your RA. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. There was a specific store that we were sourcing pretty hard in Q3 that, well, I guess it was leading into Q4, that had in-store percentage. And I did a road trip. My husband did a road trip. So we did really well with that in store, but also during Q4, because that's where this check would have been from, a lot of purchases and then pickups like Target or Macy's. So Walmart, lots of Walmart, and they would have those 10%, like you said, and sometimes they were 20%, and it just adds up so quickly. So for those of you that aren't using cashback, you're missing out.
100%.
For sure.
So which ones are you using, by the way?
So Rakuten, I feel like for me, it's been the most consistent. I know there's mixed reviews on that, but it's consistent for me. And then I like Top Cashback. And then for Walmart specifically, Hoopla. So I like that one because it's almost always 5%.
Okay.
But those are the main ones.
That's good to know. I've heard of Hoopla. Is it not Hoopla Dupla, or is it just Hoopla? Am I thinking of something else?
I think it's Hoopla Dupla. I just call it Hoopla.
Okay. No, that's
Yeah.
cool. I was like, I hope it's Hoopla Dupla because I just put myself out there with a really funky name.
That
But
name. No, you're right.
but Hoopla Dupla, if I'm not mistaken, is not an extension yet. It's like site based, I guess, is
Yeah, you have to go to the
right?
site first. I just save it as a shortcut.
Okay. Yeah. I use Rakuten, Top Cashback. I have Hoopla, but I haven't really used it. And for anyone listening, I think one that doesn't get talked about a lot is actually called Rebates Me.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
I do pretty well with that, and Be Frugal as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of good ones. It's just I do so much RA that I just try to focus all my energy into just
I
a couple,
totally get that.
There's so many.
I totally get that. And I will say Rakuten is like the Chick-fil-A of of the extensions. And what I mean by that is just like it truly is a nice, seamless experience. You're never worrying, is it activated? Did it go through? Like I regularly take less percentage points to use Rakuten because I like that mental peace of mind, and I just like giving them. I'd rather work with them,
Nope. That's how I feel too, even if it's less. You just have to make sure you end your browser and start a new one, because I do a lot of back-to-back transactions and it took me a while to figure that out.
Okay, so it's funny you say that, because sometimes, and to be honest, I don't do a great job of double checking to make sure everything goes through. Like if I buy from a site, whatever, 5% cashback activated goes through, and then I don't exit my browser, and then I go to buy again, I always double check, by the way, that it's activated, and it'll say it, but it's not like I had to re-click it. So are you saying I should not rely on that and I should exit out and then come back?
Correct. So what you need to happen is create another ticket. If you hover over your extension, it'll tell you what shopping trip or ticket, whatever they use, you're on. You need to make sure that it's a new one.
Okay.
And that doesn't always happen if you stay on the browser.
All right. I've missed out on a couple $100 easily. So no,
that was big for me.
It's all good. Someone at your level, primarily RA, OA. I'm really curious on what tools you use and especially what you're doing to scan in store, like tool wise.
So I'm pretty boring. I use Keepa,
Yep.
obviously, Rev and then I wrote it down. Oh, just the Seller Central app. I have Seller Amp. I
Okay.
don't I don't use it. I'm told that I should, but I don't know. I don't know if it's from, going back to when I started. It's just how I learned, but
Yeah.
I'm analyzing Keepa graphs on my phone mobile version.
What about so not Scoutify too, huh?
I don't really like Scoutify.
That's really interesting. I spoke to Erica. I don't know if she goes by Retail Rogue. I don't know if you're follow her
Oh yeah.
online or whatever.
Yep.
So she does a lot of RA as well. And my first 2 years were pretty much RA, and I loved Scoutify too. But it's funny. I'm glad that you have such success with Seller Central because it lets people know one less tool you even need to get to be at the level that you're at. So
Yeah, I don't like buying things if I'm not going to use them or paying for them. And I love keyword search and I love image search.
yeah,
So it
that's cool.
works.
Keyword search, I think, is a huge tip. I always like to point that out to people. Anything that you can do that most sellers aren't going to do is a huge advantage. So everyone
Yep.
can scan, but not everyone's going to take the time or even know to say product 1 2-pack, product 1 3-pack. They're just going to
Yep.
scan and hope for the best. So for
Yep.
anyone listening, typing in the keywords, or you can even set it up, I think, to speak it into your phone.
Oh, yep. Do that. Yep.
Yep. Oh, that goes a
I'm the
long
crazy
way.
person talking to themselves in the aisle. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Speaking of, well, actually, I'm going to come back to that. All right. Rev Seller, what is that?
It's the extension. I think some people maybe use like ASIN Insight or something like that, but it's just the extension, the calculator. So when you are doing OA, you can see what your fees are and you've got your shipping costs and all that in there. It's got a shortcut to keep at the bottom. And
Got it. And so when you're creating your shipments, what do you use for that? Do you just use Amazon?
oh, I'm sorry, Inventory Lab.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I missed a
Love
big one.
Inventory Lab. I
Yeah.
absolutely love Inventory Lab.
Yep. Yeah, that's a must for me. And it was right
Okay.
from the beginning.
Completely
Sorry.
agree. So anyway, so before I forget, so the crazy person talking in the store, you said you're shy. Was it uncomfortable for you at first when you're doing RA and you're in store scanning? And how did you overcome that if you did have issues with that?
Yeah, it was really, I used to like hide my phone so that people wouldn't see that I was scanning. I hated it. But I just think over time, as you start to realize that you're working really,
Right.
and you're making money off that, I less and less cared what people thought. And to be fair, you meet a lot of fun people in the stores. That was big for me to kind of come outside of my comfort zone. But you'll get people that will come up to your cart and be like, oh, what are you doing? And I tell them
Yeah.
because I mean, I've had such great conversations like, oh, how do I do that? And I'll give them a quick rundown and point them to, YouTube Hustle Buddies or something so that they can get some foundation. But no, not anymore. I just don't care.
Yeah. No.
Sounds
I,
terrible, but
I think that's very common. I think just it's very natural to feel a little out of place, but then you quickly realize no one even cares. Not that many people are paying attention. And if someone were to say anything like you're making money doing this,
yeah, I
like,
mean, poke fun or laugh at me all you want because I'm pushing
right,
$1,000 on this cart right now.
right,
So
right. That changes your mentality real quick.
it really does. And I know a lot of people too are afraid of, cashiers or managers or whatever, but I've found just be honest because when managers find out that, hey, you're going to buy my clearance, like I have more over here,
Right.
you lose out on opportunities by being secretive or feeling shy.
Totally. And if that's a reason they're not starting, I would say scout out some grocery stores with self-checkout. Okay.
There you go.
Start with
Yep.
that. And you can even take pictures of different sections on your phone and go home and do product research at your home until you're more
Yes.
comfortable.
Love
And
that.
or I've even heard people doing like Instacart and stuff, or not being the driver for Instacart or whatever, placing
Utilizing
an
it.
order through Instacart and picking it up and stuff like that.
That's a
So
great idea. I've never done that, but yeah,
yeah.
that's super
So
good.
that's not a reason to not get started is what I'm getting at,
No, nope,
and you
no.
will become comfortable. Well, you know, if you were with Hustle Buddies, like bras was a big category, right?
That's where I started. Yep.
Same. So like I'm literally on the floor at Kohl's scanning 100 different bras and my
Yeah.
cart's loaded. I mean, what can these people possibly think I'm doing, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that must have been pretty comical. Well, that actually brings up something too. So my first time that I went sourcing for bras after watching Nate's stuff, I had my 10-year-old son with me and he was just scanning the bras along like he thought it was so cool. So
I know.
yeah,
That's
what are you
really
gonna do?
funny. Current day, do you have any categories that you really hone in on, or are you kind of just like whatever sells, it sells?
Well, I will definitely check out all categories, but I'd say my niche is probably beauty and toys.
Okay. And do you think finding a niche or two is like a really smart way to go?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can choose something that interests you, so it's not boring, and really learn brands, price points so that it doesn't take so long to analyze a sale when you find something, oh, I can get this for $10. That's awesome. That'll work. And you don't have to
Right.
spend so much time like resourcing each time.
I agree. I think on one end, as I've continued to grow, it's like, wow, I'm just scratching the surface. But also, if I have two categories that I'm really proficient in, I already know what brands I can sell and I can't sell. I know which of the sites are always going to have this percentage off and this and that. And I think for me, at least, that's been another major turning point is like, hey, these are like my two main categories. I'm going deep on them. It doesn't mean I'm not willing to learn other things slowly and
Yeah.
steadily, but I
Mhm.
find that putting a lot of effort into one thing deep typically uh pays off more than the sum of 20% in five different categories. I think 100% in one category hypothetically is more valuable.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just a comfort thing. The more you source a niche or a brand, when opportunities do come, like you said, you're comfortable going deep. Where
Right.
at first, wide,
Right.
you don't want to go deep on anything. So it
Totally. I
helps.
I thought of something recently and frankly I think it's a good message in that I was like, you want to be wide enough so that if something were to fall off tomorrow, you're still fine, but
Mhm.
also narrow enough so that you have a competitive advantage against most other average sellers, and I think that's kind of like a good way
Love
to
it.
put it.
Yeah, I like that.
Um, when you go sourcing now, because when I started with RA, scan everything, you don't know what you don't know. Are you going with a shopping list and then while you're there, I'm scanning clearance, or like take us through your preparation to go sourcing when you're doing RA?
Now, when I source, it's usually because I'm chasing a specific sale.
Okay.
And I know what items have sold in the past, so I focus on those, and then I will move into something maybe new.
Okay.
Whereas grocery, I would kind of, when I did grocery, I would look at the sales circular and kind of make my list based on that. But now, when we hit a sale, we hit it so hard that we have enough inventory to kind of carry us to that next sale.
Got it. Okay. No, that's awesome. I think that's a natural progression too, by the way. I think a lot of people, it's like, but again, talk about that long term. First, you have to get out there, then you have to find a winning product, then you have to get the feedback that it's sold. And then the next time it comes around, you're ready for it, right?
Yep.
And
Right.
you might not be ready to go 100 units deep. So this time you go 20. Okay, it all sold. Next time I'll go 100. And you
Yep.
can't expedite that process unless you just get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I agree with that totally. And I know you said you try to source every day. Do you have like when you go out and about sourcing, do you know how many hours all of this takes you to source, whether it be in a day, a week on average?
A lot.
A lot.
I don't keep track probably because I don't really want to know.
Yeah.
But I do try to source around family activities. So
Okay.
like if I'm dropping my son off at practice, then I know I've got 2 hours. I can run into Meyer and check out what's new on the clearance rack or what might be buy one, get one free that week because I haven't looked at this, sales circular. Or they get a lot of new items like the limited edition type food things. So I'll run around and see what's new. Or like if my daughter has to work at Michael's, sometimes I'll drop her off and I'll go source Michael's. So it really depends on what we have going that day. I just
Yeah.
try to be consistent with it so that I get something in.
That's so funny. Michael's was where I found my very first product.
Michael's is great.
I still source Michael's pretty hard to this day, to be honest with you.
I love it. Yeah, there's a lot of good opportunity both online and in store. So
Yeah. So have you taught your daughter like, hey, while you're working, check this out for me. Let me
she
know.
she hates it. I'll be like, well, not so much anymore, but when Michael's had Legos, I don't know if it's just our location that doesn't. Like, so make sure you scan this every couple weeks to see if it's got a
Yeah.
clearance. Mom, I can't do that, but
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. As a new parent, I'm curious. So like you're doing your own thing, entrepreneurial, obviously doing very well with it. And now your kid, at least your daughter, is going to work, at Michael's, right? Which, that's great,
yeah.
obviously. But has there ever been a part of you that said, why don't I just teach them how to do this and they can get a way better hourly rate? Or do you kind of like fill me in from the parent perspective on that?
So it's funny that you say that because my daughter actually has her own business. She has an Etsy store that she's been very active in for about 4 years, and she crochets.
Okay.
So she makes all kinds of little stuffed animals, hats, scarves, all that kind of stuff. So she actually runs her own business, all of it.
Amazing.
And she does craft shows too. So taking in the money, doing inventory, getting the production done. We've talked about, if you're making this item and it takes you this long and your supplies cost this much, what does that mean you have to price it at? So yeah, she's doing great. And
Good.
then for my son, something we've gotten into on the side is pallet flipping, like picking up pallets and selling them on eBay or locally. And he loves that. And he'll go through and do the inventory on the pallet and look up each item and do spreadsheets. And so they both are very much entrepreneurial. And I have no doubt that they'll both run their own companies in the future.
Wow, that's
So,
that's really cool. I imagine, osmosis too, just seeing your parents or parent or whatever, or who, what you take note of stuff, right? And if that's
sure.
all you know and see, naturally osmosis occurs and you're going to take in some of that. Now, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but
Right.
just
No.
like anything else.
Yep. I think Michael's is good for my daughter because she's learning customer service.
Hmm.
She's learning, money exchanging hands, and she can earn money to buy her supplies to make her crafts. So
Yeah, no,
I
that's
think
great. That's really impressive. Good for them.
it's
Um,
fun.
Something I saw you post about was using Gusto. And I know of Gusto, the payroll service. Uh,
Yeah.
I use them for something else that I do. And not so much to dive into that, but I think what's really important about that is that, and I'm curious your take on this. I think mentally, people that are successful at this change their mindset of I'm a reseller to I am a business owner, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious your take on that, or like, did you always have that mindset? Did it switch because you're doing it? You're legitimately paying people like I don't know if it's technically W-2 employees, but
Yep, it is.
it's a legitimate business, right?
We switched to W-2 this year. And when we switched to that and I hired that full-time employee, it very much did kick in like, wow, I'm responsible for their paycheck.
Yeah.
And there's pressure that comes with that for sure. But yeah, I definitely think of things differently. I've become a little bit more scheduled, I guess, with my time versus in prior years. Consistent, but if I wanted to take the morning off or I wanted to go easy this afternoon, it wasn't a big deal. Where now I have to be at the warehouse because they're coming in. I need to make sure that the inventory is coming in. And account health is a big deal. Like I need to take that a little bit more seriously than I did maybe before. Things like that. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a mind shift.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's funny because I just started using it myself and I was like, all these extra taxes and social security
That's
and stuff. I'm like, what?
I know
Where did
it's
all this?
kind of
Oh,
you just got to do it, but yeah, it adds up for sure.
yeah, it
It
does.
really
But
does.
I think, well, I always say pros and cons, but I think there's something really something impactful about someone else being dependent on you.
Very
It's kind of
much.
almost like the buddy system, like if I have a gym partner hypothetically, and I'm not going to not show up if we have plans to show up. They're counting on me, and and together it brings out the best in both of us.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but it doesn't
Accountability.
come without pressure.
No. But
So
it's good.
something
It's
else,
good
speaking
pressure.
of the warehouse, I had to make a note of this. I saw that you posted, this is like the biggest Amazon flex, in my opinion, you can have,
Oh,
is the
wow.
machine that does the tape, right?
Yes.
So for anybody to understand this, all right, you rip so many pieces of tape to close all these boxes. It's time consuming. I don't think anyone in the history of it enjoys it,
So
right?
loud.
It's so loud. Like I now have to do that outside because of having a kid, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
but you bought this machine that I imagine you just set it to the length you want and it spits out a perfect length sheet of tape that you just take and you put it on the box, right?
It's beautiful. It's game changing. They're not cheap, but oh my gosh, it's quiet. Yeah, it just spits it out whatever length and it's gooey on one side. So you just stick it on the box and boom, done.
That I saw that, I was like, this is a game changer. This is like you made it status, in that
It,
world of Amazon.
it's so nice. I love that thing.
Yeah. So I'll let you go here soon. One thing I definitely did want to ask you about though is that I saw you have a goal of 200K in sales on Walmart. Am I missing out hugely by not selling on Walmart?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Noted. Tell me
Walmart.
about your experience and what that's like for anyone that only sells on Amazon, please.
So Walmart it's its own beast. It's still very much in its adolescent stage, so it's
Okay.
very clunky and hard. And sometimes you just really need to scream at the screen. But the ROI is so much better on Walmart because you have less competition and things sell higher on Walmart. And I mean, what you would think you're selling on Walmart, toys or something. No, you can sell um perfume, $400 bottles of perfume, Nike, Adidas. I mean, all these things on Walmart that you would never think to buy on a platform like that. But um, it's great. And you can start what I've done and a lot of sellers do. They start with like what we call MF for Amazon. Start by doing that. You can list your items. It's pretty easy and just fulfill on your own. And then eventually they have what's called WFS, Walmart Fulfilled, just like FBA, where you can send it in and then they will take care of all of your orders and fulfilling and customer service and such. But
Interesting.
it's
I
growing, but it's worth
yeah.
checking out.
Would you say if someone were to start, would you say a good place would be to see what are your replens? Because if there's something, or I guess like if I have something that consistently sells for profit on Amazon, it makes natural sense to think that that will occur on Walmart as well, right?
Yeah, yes and no. That's how I started, just kind of seeing what would work. And honestly, a lot of my items that maybe tanked on Amazon, I'll sell them on Walmart.
Okay.
Because it's not always what's popular on Amazon is popular on Walmart. It's not
Yeah.
always like that. That's what I started by doing, but now I use a software called Data Spark, and it's kind of like Keepa is for Amazon. It's still, new too, but it at least gives you an idea of what could potentially be moving.
Okay.
Until that, it was kind of just throw it against the wall, see what sticks.
Or yeah, I was gonna say, so it must be like, well, if it's selling on Amazon, Keepa says it sells on Amazon, I have reason to believe it'll sell on Walmart type of thing. But now you're saying
Yep.
there's Data Spark. Okay.
There is, yep, and there's pros and cons, but with Walmart, I just go really, really wide,
Yeah.
couple units maybe per item, and see what happens. So
Do you find your margins are higher or lower on Walmart relative to Amazon?
they're higher.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
Walmart.
interesting.
There's just people aren't utilizing the platform.
Yeah. And as far as like, let's just think of a couple of things in Amazon world, ungating, account health, like all very similar.
Yep. You still have to ungate certain things. The thing with Walmart, though, you don't know what it is until you go to list it.
Okay.
Where like Amazon gives you the heads up when you scan it, like this is gated.
Yeah.
Walmart doesn't do that. So you have to kind of be careful there. I'm trying to think what else might be similar, but account health, same thing. I mean, IPs happen with Amazon. They're going to happen with Walmart. I haven't really run into too much on there.
Mhm.
I do a lot of toys so far on Walmart
Yeah.
and beauty.
Do
Same thing
do
for
you do
Amazon, but
you yeah. Sorry, say that again, that last part.
I said, no, I was just saying that I did a lot of toys and beauty, but that's what I do for Amazon. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we already covered that.
I gotcha. Um, as far as IP complaints, do you, I don't know if you know this firsthand, but like, let's say a brand files an IP complaint on Amazon, is it very likely they'll also file IP complaint on Walmart, or is it not worth their time yet?
I don't think a lot of companies are really chasing Walmart sellers yet. I've heard of
Interesting.
some. I think the bigger ones that you know to stay away from on Amazon, I'd
Yeah.
stay away from on Walmart too. But I mean, I get account health issues and I'm selling the same thing on Walmart and I haven't received anything. So
And so of that, let's say 200K goal, will all of those be products that you're going to sell on Amazon as well, or anything specific to Walmart for whatever reason?
So when I am sourcing a sale, I will scan for Walmart and I will scan for Amazon at the same time. So I'll kind of make that judgment call. Maybe sometimes I'll split it and I'll sell it on both. Or if I
Yeah.
can't sell it on Amazon, maybe there's no listing or I'm gated, I will sell it on Walmart. So there's different
Cool.
SKUs on each platform.
Very interesting. Okay. And do they have, so I'm assuming there's a Walmart scanning app, but like, are there other alternatives the way that they're Scoutify too for Amazon?
So there's Data Spark. You can
Okay.
scan with
Oh, so
that
that
as
you could
well.
scan with that. Okay.
Yep, but to get an idea if something's listed on Walmart, you can just use their app.
Yeah.
So if there's a listing, if you scan something and it comes up on the Walmart app, you can sell it. Walmart might be in stock, but what happens when Walmart goes out of stock? It goes to
Right.
those third-party sellers, just like Amazon.
Yeah. No, gosh. I am so glad I brought that up. That really piques my interest. And it makes a lot
Yeah,
of sense. I mean, there's less competition and a lot of people buy from Walmart. So
yeah, yeah.
that's really good to know. That's interesting. Cool. I'm gonna definitely check that out. I think that's gonna be great.
It's nice to diversify.
I agree,
If anything.
100%. That's actually one of the things that bothers me the most about Amazon.
Mhm.
At this point, I've done it long enough. I do things the right way. I don't really worry about it, but I don't love the all eggs in the Amazon basket, you know?
Same. Yep,
And
for
so,
sure.
but obviously like Facebook Marketplace isn't, you can get sales or I'm giving a random example, or eBay, but you can't ever, in my opinion, replicate. I mean, I guess some people crush eBay, but
They do.
the scalability because of the fulfillment FBA aspect,
Mhm.
that's very, very hard to replicate.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
no,
Amazon's
this is really
still
good to know.
the
That's good.
volume is in Amazon,
Right.
but the profit can be in Walmart.
Okay. I like that. So do both. That's the move.
Yep, there you go.
So for anybody else that's looking to get started, would you be willing to share what are some stores that you think of that maybe you still have success with that are national stores that, somebody says, I can't find anything or whatever. Like, would you mind sharing, are there any national stores you still source from? Walmart, Target, stuff
Sure.
like that, that literally
Um,
everybody has access to that you still do really well with?
yeah, so Big Lots, they've got especially seasonal. Big Lots is awesome.
Okay.
But a big one for that, you have to title search. You can't just scan.
Right.
Ollie's, I know a lot of people talk about Ollie's tanking, but I shop Ollie's still today, multiple times a week. Same thing. You can't just scan, you have to title search.
Yep.
Walgreens is great when they've got their clearance and their like buy one, get one free sales or
Yeah.
buy one, get two free sales. Walgreens can be fantastic. Five Below is usually really good for summer, but again, you have to title search. So there's a key here. You have
Yeah.
to put the work in. No matter what store you go to, you can find things. You just have
Yeah.
to take that extra step to do what everyone else isn't doing.
Exactly. No, I'm glad you said that, because those are stores that a lot of people have access to. And I think it's very, if you don't have success right away and you see other people online, it's like, what am I doing wrong? And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time.
I love the online community because, networking opportunities are fantastic, but it's not all about the orange bars. So
Yes,
if you're new and you're just getting started, don't even pay attention to that. Use it as motivation, but they're on chapter 10 and you're on chapter 1. So
right.
give yourself some grace.
No, 100%. You gotta race your own race type of thing. It's a long-term play. And
Very
and
much.
not that it matters what other people are doing, but you have no idea. Some people could literally be losing money and they might know that or not know that.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
so
like you said, there's a million ways to make $1 million on Amazon. Some people only want the cash back. They'll
right.
sell at break even. They have no problem with that. And then
Yeah.
flash the bars. That you just stay in your
Yeah.
lane.
100% agree. Um, so concluding here, what is your what are your goals for, I know you were shooting for 1 million last year. What are your goals for this year? And also just the future as a whole for Amazon. Like, what do you see in a couple of years? Do you see yourself continuing doing this for the, as far as you can see, or where are you at with it?
Yeah, so we are still just getting used to this whole new warehouse and ironing out, the day to day. So we're very much planning to stick with Amazon as far as our lease goes, at least. I did a little over 1 million last year. My goal for this year was just to hit 1 million again.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to focus on Walmart and some other things that we've got going on. But I've upped that to 1.5. I'd like to do 1.5 million this year and just really work on systems.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
That's great. Very casually bumping it by 500K. Very casually.
You know what I mean?
No, I respect that. That's really great. And I think something that's really important there too. Sometimes it's important to take a step back for 2 steps forward, and the systems, the processes, like even for me, a very small example. Just last month was my first month using a prep center for like 95% of my stuff. And it's one that
Nice.
I was referred to. I like them. Everything's good, but it's going to take time for them to get my products, and then, me to learn the system of how they do things. They're not going to
Yep.
be shipped out as quickly. So February, I saw a little dip in sales of where I would have liked to be, but I also know that, it's just one of those things. One step
Yeah.
back, 2 steps forward. I'm going to have a lot more time now for me to source, and it's this snowball effect. And that's just one small example, but
Sure. Makes
sometimes it's
sense.
okay. It's okay to just say, I need to take a step back for if you have the big picture mindset, the long-term play, it's
Yep.
irrelevant what happens in the week to week, short to short stuff.
Absolutely.
So, and then as far as where can people find you online? I know I mentioned Instagram, sarahs.fba, and I'll link that below. Any groups or anything like that you'd like to share?
Yep. So Instagram, Twitter, it's just Sarah's FBA. I'm not very active on there, but I'm trying to get a little bit better. And then we also, I run with 3 other sellers, a group called The Village on Facebook. We're all Hustle Buddy mods, I guess now.
Okay.
And they're all 7-figure sellers, and it's just a community where you can ask questions, and we do monthly Zooms, and we really try to be as transparent as we can, and we just want everyone to grow together. So we
Yeah,
have that as well.
that's awesome. Coincidentally, I didn't even realize this, but I'm actually interviewing Tracy tomorrow, who I believe is in that as well. She's been
Yes,
selling for like 20 years or something.
the OG. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have a blast with her. She's
Awesome. No,
great.
I'm really excited about that. And by the way, when you all kind of formed this group, where were you all at in sales? Now you're all 7-figure sellers, but where were you at that time?
So that original group that I talked about that was game changing for me, this is that group.
Yeah.
So Alexa and Steve, they were already 7-figure sellers. I think last year they did almost 3. Tracy has done, last year she did over 2. So we started and we grew together. So I think I've always been the smaller seller of everyone. So
Wow.
I don't remember where they were at, but I know Tracy was like fighting to get 50,000 a month. So, I mean,
Wow.
that was huge. And I was fighting to get 25, 30 when we first met. So we've
Yeah.
grown substantially.
That's incredible. I think that's really a testament to like, you surround yourself with winners, everybody's going to win type of thing.
It's huge. Yep. And
Yeah.
then there's one more in our group too, and he's a 7-figure seller as well. So it's just, yeah, like you said, it's a testament. Form a group of people that you trust and you can grow with, and you will all
Yeah.
benefit.
And one thing that I'm observing, and the more people I connect with, is that I get the lure of OA, and I'm in that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But these people are crushing it with RA. Like, it is absolutely doable, but there's not a one
Yes.
size fits all. But if you're just looking to make the most amount off of this, I think RA is going to be your move, especially bang for your buck. Like, that's not negotiable. If you have a limited budget, RA is going to be your highest return, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah. I
I
never
even,
could have started with OA. I didn't have enough
yeah,
to start with.
I agree. And I even think that, let's just say you have a $50,000 spend budget and you hit 40,000 by mid-month, rather than just hitting the other 10K in the 2 weeks for OA, maybe you do that RA to really maximize because you have a
Yeah.
rigid 50K. It doesn't have to be all or nothing,
Mm-mm.
at least try stuff at a minimum,
Oh yeah, I think you should definitely try for
Yeah.
sure. Especially right now, just the way everything is. Retailers are really trying to get rid of items. There's some huge opportunities right now.
Yeah.
So, and
No,
I like
that's
to
great.
zig when they zag kind of thing. So
Exactly. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sarah. I mean, you're really
absolutely.
impressive and inspirational, and continued success to you.
Thank
And
you. Thanks for having me. This was
yeah,
great.
this was great. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right.
All right. Take
Bye.
care.